This episode is brought to you by Kia's first 3-row all-electric SUV, the Kia EV9, with available all-wheel drive and seating for up to 7 adults, with a 0 to 60 speed that thrills you 1 minute, and available reclining lounge seats that unwind you the next. Visit kia.com/EV9 to learn more. Ask your Kia dealer for availability. No system, no matter how advanced, can compensate for all driver error and or driving conditions. Always drive safely.
I'm Mo Rocca, and I'm excited to announce Season 4 of my podcast, Mobituaries. I've got a whole new bunch of stories to share with you about the most fascinating people and things who are no longer with us. From famous figures who died on the very same day, to the things I wish would die, like buffets. All that and much more. Listen to Mobituaries with Mo Rocca wherever you get your podcasts.
Boobies.
Hi,
Ooh, hello.
and welcome to
Boobies. I wasn't ready.
How did we get that mixed up?
I don't know.
You start. That's why. Start
Hello.
it. And hi,
And welcome to.
boobies.
I like it. Keep it all in.
Yeah,
now.
keep it all in.
We're your hosts. I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Joshua.
And today we're here to talk to you about
Hell House, LLC Origins, the Carmichael Manor.
2003, written and directed by Mr. Stephen Cognetti. We
Second set of alarms.
met him
We did.
over the phone.
Virtually. Audibly?
Audibly.
That's still
Audibly.
virtual, isn't it? Is that virtual? No,
Yeah.
that's not virtual. Is it?
We didn't have a Zoom call with
Digital.
him like we had
We met
with
him
some other people.
digitally. I don't know.
Some of the other interviews.
Mhm.
I almost said podcasts.
We're on Zoom via
We're
Zoom.
on via Zoom,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And so that was kind of digitally. It was still via a digital
No, that's
device.
virtual. No, I'm that's
Virtually.
that's virtual.
Oh, virtual.
To me, like the Zoom is like virtual, whereas just a phone call is more just like digitally. But all within the same. He knows what our voices sound like.
Yeah, which is really weird.
That's pretty cool.
It
And
is
I
pretty
can't
cool.
say that I have a lot of directors of films that are on streaming platforms and have like a budget that know what my voice sounds like.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. We've
Makes
done
me
pretty
feel
famous. Good so far.
Yeah.
We're only like we're not even 30.
Not yet.
Not yet. Almost there,
Almost.
but we're not even.
I
we're
was
not-
like, Josh, I'm 30, but
Wait.
I forgot. I'm not.
No, you're not. I was like, don't
not.
say that. You're not. Wait,
I will
it's
be
just
in
another
a
month.
month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
16th.
Mm-hmm.
And-
January.
Andrew's is 16th of this month, right?
Mhm.
Okay, that's how I remember. I remember specifically because the 16th is my sister's birthday, but in September.
Right.
And so I was thinking like, okay, I just know that it's
Lots of 16.
my sister's 16, but it's Caitlin's in January, and that's really easy to remember. Mm-hmm.
That would make it easy.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, we're here to talk to you about Hell House.
Yeah.
The fourth film in this franchise.
Yeah, a sequel, but kind of a prequel, but kind of a requel, or no, not even. But
But it's taking us, as Mike would say, to a different planet.
yeah.
We're going to
Within the
a
same
different
universe.
part of this world.
Mhm,
Yeah.
I see that.
And so that's pretty cool.
It's very
They did
exciting,
a great job of connecting all the little threads and everything. And
Mhm.
even watching it this time, there was more that I picked up on that I was like, oh,
Then the first time
Mhm.
you watched it, yeah.
which is so cool. It's so fun whenever you can watch a movie multiple times and it give you a different viewing basically each time.
Mm-hmm.
So they did a great job.
You kind of tend to watch it with the different perspective, and then you have like the rose-colored glasses are off, so you can like see all the little nuances and details that you didn't pick up before.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
But basically, we start
Mhm.
with Bradley. Open with shots of the Carmichael house with Bradley's voice kind of going
Voiceover.
over.
Mhm.
Yeah. And he is the co-founder of Net Sleuths. My phone autocorrected sleuths to slurries.
Slurries?
Net slurries.
Slurries. Interesting. What's a slurry?
It's like
Oh,
I
like
think
a
when
slurry
snow.
of snow, right? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Well, that's cute.
Yep.
But yeah,
Stupid phone.
the sleuths, not sloths, to be mistaken, like we get
Not
later.
sloths. Yeah.
Yeah, by Chase.
I'm not a sloth.
Yeah,
That was funny.
it was cute. It was a little part of little humor, and that was kind of like there was a couple moments, I guess, in the movie where there was humor injected in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
I definitely
Like little jokes.
chuckled
Mm-hmm.
a few times.
Or like whenever Rebecca
Mhm.
was making the bed and like making a parody of like they're like look at me making the bed.
Yeah.
But
It
yeah,
was cute. Lots of good humanizing moments in this film.
very much so. Yeah, especially even fleshing out like Chase's character and stuff, and like giving him his background. Like, it makes you
Yeah.
empathize with him, and then you're like, wow. Imagine if you're a recovering addict going into a haunted house. That fucking
So he's
sucks.
an addict.
That's
I
what it gave
couldn't-
to me.
I couldn't tell if he had like schizophrenia or
Oh.
something because he kept saying that the little girl wasn't there.
and
But I
talking to
also
him.
think
Yeah.
maybe that could have been Tully's daughter who he was seeing,
That's
or
what I
the
was
little
be-
girl who disappeared in the hotel.
That's what I was thinking, that it was a little girl who disappeared in the
Yeah.
hotel. Which was also another way of how somehow even the hotel or Abaddon or whatever itself was make the evilness that is, behind Tully's, was contacting him in that way. Maybe because he was just related to her and somehow they almost got to her, back in the day through the carnival.
Yeah.
So it was connecting them somehow. But it could be that it was just schizophrenia or some other type of mental illness as opposed to a drug-related incident. But
Yeah, they never really
explained
explicitly
it
tell
out.
you.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
But that's what I was kind of picking more
Okay.
up on.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Mm-hmm.
I thought maybe it was some sort of mental disorder since
yeah.
he was on medication too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Or a combination.
yeah,
Who knows?
he could be abusing his medication.
But we get from Bradley and like this voiceover a little bit of the history over the Carmichael Manor.
Yeah.
Essentially. And how, like they were a really wealthy family. And they lived in like a mansion that was miles, on backwoods roads you would have to get to their house. So
Surrounded
really
by miles of forest and
secluded.
stuff too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Way off the beaten path.
yeah. And on one October morning, Catherine and Eleanor, the mother, wife, and daughter, the youngest daughter, right?
Catherine, yes,
Yeah.
was the youngest.
Yeah. Oh, my bad. Eleanor was the other daughter.
Margaret's, yeah.
Margaret's the one that.
Eleanor might be the mom's name.
Yeah, my bad. I don't know why I'm reading it backwards in my notes, but that's how I have it. Yes, Catherine and Eleanor were murdered. And the dad couldn't be found, and Patrick couldn't be found either. But there was only one set of footprints that were found leaving like the premises.
Yeah.
With no blood, but they were
Not
all
a
like
single drop of blood anywhere, yet the crime scenes upstairs were horrific.
mhm,
And crimes of rage or passion or
very bloody,
yeah.
messy.
When we get little snapshots of the crime scene photos, they look pretty gruesome.
Mm-hmm. And we also get background on Patrick and kind of some information that's not necessarily exonerating him, but kind of makes it seem like he couldn't have done or pulled this off because prior to this happening, him and his older sister, Margaret, were in a car accident where she unfortunately passed away. She
Yeah.
succumbed to injuries like there on the spot. And
They
then,
were hit by a drunk driver.
And then he, which that was probably set up by Tully. And then he ended up getting hurt on his arm. Was it his arm?
Yeah.
Yeah, his arm. Yeah.
His arm was basically, broken or something.
He only
He had
basically
to
had
wear
one
a little
arm.
sling.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it would have been
Functionable.
rather hard for him to commit these murders
Mhm.
with the use of only one arm,
Yeah,
with how
and how-
gruesome they were.
Mhm.
Yeah. And basically, yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
it kind of
Arthur
covers
and
all that.
Patrick are missing. We don't know who they are. We also get Alicia, who is the writer.
Yeah.
And she wrote a book, but I didn't catch the name of the book.
I didn't either. I didn't write it
went
down.
really fast.
Yeah. And she pops up like
throughout the entire
whole film. Yeah.
just
yeah,
as
yeah.
much as Bradley does.
Kind of like the narrators.
Yeah,
In essence.
they're progressing the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
And but then basically, yeah, we get Arthur and Patrick are missing. Their bodies are never recovered, and it's kind of just this mystery. And
It's a cold case file.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're with Margot and Rebecca.
Yes.
Basically,
And they're
we get that they died on their fourth night in the manor. And so we know from the start that they're going to die.
They're dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like reminiscent of the other films. Bradley is the one who kind of got all this footage from her, recovered it, and is
Because he
putting
was
it
her
together.
partner.
Mm-hmm. And is recovered
In
and put it
work,
together.
not
Mm-hmm.
in love.
Yeah.
That was Rebecca.
That would be Rebecca. And so we have them, and we have it starts to play their 911 call, right? From the night that everything happened.
Yeah.
That they were able to get. And it's basically Margot just pleading for help.
Yeah,
Right.
we get it's Rebecca on the phone.
Rebecca, my bad.
And she's saying like, "Oh, hey, it's working." And then she
Mm-hmm.
says, "Margot, don't. It's not him." Because as we find out later, Chase has been missing, and she's going to go chase after him.
Yeah, because she thinks that she's receiving text from him.
Yeah, receiving text, and at this point, his voice is calling out to her as well. And then the phone line goes dead because, as we establish very early on, there's very shitty cell reception.
Reservice?
That's
what you call it.
in in this area.
Yeah.
So, but then we get a title card.
Title card.
Just a nice, ominous Hell House LLC origins, the Carmichael Manor.
Carmichael Manor.
It doesn't say it.
No,
but it says it with its text.
Heavily implied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels very like somebody would narrate it that way.
And so we basically get kind of it's setting up the footage that we are about to see, essentially. And we cut to Rebecca and Marco pulling up to like a food stop, like a little
hole in the wall gas station maybe /
like you're all in like
diner that just has everything.
It's like a I don't know how to
counter store. No, corner store.
A corner store, a country market.
Counter store.
Yeah. Very like the Czech store. I don't know if people I don't even know if people would honestly.
If you're in West.
Nobody even knows what that is that's listening. Basically, yeah.
Czech stop.
Yeah, it's it's got your gas station probably outside. It's got your locals. It's got someone who's running the cashier. But anyways, they're talking to this guy, and he's also kind of like, you can tell maybe it's small town vibes because he's like, why are y'all recording? Like when they have I would probably ask the same thing if you got a camera just like recording me in my face.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah. If I was,
what are you gonna do with that?
If somebody came up to me at my job and I was working and they were just like filming me, I'd be like, "Excuse me."
That's weird.
Why?
I need to sign something.
Yeah.
Where's my release form?
A waiver.
Yeah.
But yeah, and basically he knows all about what they're going to do because she explains that she owns and is an operator of netsluice.com and that they are basically kind of going to investigate this unsolved murder. And he automatically is like, "Oh, the Carmichael Manor." And she's like, "You know it."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, everyone in this town knows it," kind of thing. We used to hang out there as kids
And
party in the backyard, which, I was just, every time they were driving out there and stuff, I was like, man, y'all really drove a long way to go party.
Just to come party out here.
Yeah. Which is super dangerous to then have to drive that way back.
They were getting drunk. Maybe they were
drunk.
passing out there.
Ugh, scary.
I mean, I wouldn't want to, but
yeah, not knowing after what happens.
Did you ever pass out in a pasture or in a big
field of grass?
Field of grass after
As
drinking?
a little kid, not drinking.
Okay. No, for some reason I see these things like on TikTok or like maybe other things like on Reels, I don't know, where people kind of like probably a little older than us, I guess, or around our age, have like reminiscent of like back in the day when me and my friends would like, get like some beers like in high school essentially and like go to like some field and just get drunk.
Sounds like a bad country song.
But then Robbie told me about how he did that one time, right? Like
Go
how
to a
he
field
went to
out
some
in a pasture.
thing and got drunk out there and passed out. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that's what people like actually did. Like
Yeah.
I thought I was just like, but I guess that's a thing that people do. I don't know. I feel like I missed out. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, well, we'll go drink at a field.
And I have to pass out.
Okay.
And like wake up probably like, I don't know. Did people leave? Did people not? I'm just like imagining people like wake
So
up
many
at 2 or 3 in
bugs.
the morning and then be like, oh, we got to go. Or is it like you just wake up at like the sun waking you up and there's like a cow looking your face like that, I don't know. But it gets very Disney Channel original movie. Cowbells.
Cowbells.
I loved Cowbells with
Ding, ding,
Ali
ding.
and AJ. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Oh,
Did you ever watch that one?
I don't know.
Oh, it was a really good one. They were like rich heiresses, but then like their dad, his coworker, like stole all the money from the
Oh.
company, and so they had to start working
So
to
it's like
pitch in.
Schitt's Creek meets The Simple Life?
Yeah, very much that.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
And so we have them basically getting the rundown from him about all the partying and all of that. And, they're kind of getting the gist of like, that's pretty haunted. Don't want to mess around with that. And then
Yeah.
we have Rebecca and Margot outside. And that's whenever they're setting up, I guess, staying there, I believe, or already talking about how they're going to stay there. And then Rebecca, we get that kind of mention of like, do we really have to kind of stay there? Like, can't we stay at like a hotel or something?
Yeah, a nearby hotel in which I was like, this place is secluded. There's not probably a nearby hotel.
Yeah. But I mean, I hear her out though. Like, if that town's close enough, maybe there was something there and they could just do a day trip and then drive back and then,
Yeah.
But I
wouldn't-
see why there's concern of staying in the haunted place. I do.
Yeah.
But
because we also got mentioned, I don't think we mentioned the little old school footage of that guy in the house 1 year after their murders.
You're right, my bad.
And with the door closing and stuff, and like paranormal events kept happening within the house
Mhm.
while other people were trying to film there.
Yeah.
And it, he got annoyed and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But basically, that sets up a lot of the paranormal background for
Yeah.
us and letting us know that the place is haunted.
Mhm.
I, for one, would not be staying in the bed that someone was murdered in.
That's a bit weird.
Yeah,
That's a bit like you're asking for it.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It almost seems disrespectful.
it does.
Yeah. I'm kind
I-
of like their bed forever now. The dead person's the deceased person.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you have to get rid of that bed, get a new bed frame.
Mhm.
I'm sure they got a new bed,
I don't know. Kind of seems like they didn't.
just covered in blood.
They just
when
it
you
kinda,
take all the sheets
kind of
off.
seems like they just
They
got
put
some
a-
bleach or something and just like
No, not
Bleach
even
don't
that.
even
They
do that,
just
right?
put a mattress topper on it.
they did.
And they were like, oh,
They just took it outside to dry.
cover that blood.
They just took it outside to dry and air out.
Dried in the sun.
I also don't know. Does bleach get rid of blood?
I think it will get rid of blood
But
on
there
the
will
surface level.
be like a
But if you took
stain.
luminol
You would see
and
it.
stuff,
see
you'd
it.
still be able to see
I don't
it.
know. I'm not a murderer, so I have never
From
attempted
my
to clean up.
many nights of watching Forensic Files,
Oh, okay.
it will still show
Hmm.
with luminol.
There's nothing that can get rid other than like acid, right? There's nothing that could but like get rid of blood. Like you will always see it, right? Doesn't it like stain permanently with anything it lands on? Do you know?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't feel confident enough in my answer to.
Answer that live on air.
Yeah.
Mhm.
'Cause
Someone's
then
gonna be
people are
like,
gonna be like,
okay, let's
"Actually,
set in this episode that
You're a dumb bitch.
Mhm.
And it's not possible.
all of Caitlin's information is misinformed. Like,
Kaylin's just wrong all of the
Um,
time.
never. But yeah, I don't know. Just something that popped into my head. But yes, we are now talking about. I think there's mention of the Rockland County Fair, right? At this point.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because that's what my note says next too. And so Rockland County, she went to the Rockland County Fair once as a kid
Yeah.
and was almost abducted basically. And so we get that little
Just kind of tidbit.
tidbit.
They don't really delve more into it at this moment, but I love how we also get that really close up shot of just her as a kid.
Yeah.
That later on will zoom out because they love to
When
do
it
that.
zoomed out, I was like, "Whoa!" I did get excited.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh
That's the
shit,
clown!"
he's there!"
Yeah, it's kind of also how does this fucking clown get everywhere?
I know this clown gets around.
Yeah, I guess that's what happens when you're a supernatural clown,
Yeah.
or not at that point.
Who
What came
knows?
first, the chicken or the egg? The clown or the...
I feel like there was
Hmm.
definitely some culty shit at work in this fair.
Yeah, there was. And so we also then get introduced to when we're arriving to the house. We get to see like how, grand it is. It's a pretty big house. And then we get inside the house and we get to meet Donald, who is basically their tour guide or like
Well, the
the
door is just wide
housekeeper
open.
guy.
Sorry,
it is.
I was
Mhm.
like, that's suspicious.
Do you think that's
reminded
like
me
the
of-
hotel?
Yeah, like when the
Inviting them
Abaddon
in?
Hotel would open the door in.
I feel like the tour guide just left it open though.
Yeah, I think he did.
But
it's still
you're right though. It is probably giving
reminded me
a
of
nod. It's probably giving a nod to that.
because she does pause.
Also, do we think that Donald, the tour person, is like in cahoots, or maybe he's the spirit himself? Because he's also just like letting you like who, you know what I mean?
Who is Donald?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like
He could be in cahoots and
and,
like trying to.
Well,
What
and-
if Donald is Patrick? grown up?
Yeah, he could be. He could be. We don't know that. And he's been there the whole time. He never left.
Yeah.
He's been in that room the whole time in the clown suit.
I did think that
he never
Patrick
left.
never left, and he's just been in there,
Oh,
and
he's just
then
been
he
living in the
just
house?
goes down to the kitchen, eats food every day.
Donald like takes care of him, brings supplies, so he doesn't
Mhm.
have to leave. Donald is his bitch.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. They're lovers.
I love it.
I don't know.
Gideon's probably like, no, that's not what it is at all. Because we
That's not
interviewed,
what we wrote.
we got to
Yeah.
interview Gideon as well, who
Mhm.
plays Patrick.
I was unfortunately not a part of that. How was that?
It was super fun. He
yeah.
was super nice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Did he give a lot of insight on like because I'm gonna be so happy to listen to that because I don't know how that call went.
He gave just enough away, but
Okay.
he obviously couldn't say
So,
a whole lot.
And like it's not his movie to speak on behalf of, essentially, almost.
The only person who I think has given the most away has been Joe Bandelli.
The producer.
Yeah,
Yes.
the producer.
Yes.
I believe that's how you say his last name.
Mhm.
I got
Yeah.
to that
Mhm.
call late.
Yeah.
I was like rolling up at 6:02 and was like,
Did
I'm
it
here.
start at 6?
Yeah, it started at 6.
Okay, gotcha.
And I got to that call late. But he was super open and super involved, like just about everything.
Oh,
and so
cool.
he was very fun to talk to.
That's cool.
And he also played Louis in the
Mhm.
third. And then
The
he's
camera
played the
guy.
clown.
Yeah.
And he's played Malcolm. He played Malcolm in the second film.
The
So-
other camera guy.
The other camera guy.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
Brock's
mhm.
camera guy.
Yeah.
And
Who we never got to see him on, right? Because we never got to see him.
not really.
on
you
camera.
see him hanging.
That's
and
right.
you see him whenever they first turn around.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of see his face, but it's kind of obscured by the camera. He's holding the camera
Because
up.
it's not till the third one is when he plays Louis that we really get like more of him on screen.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but he was probably the most open. But
That's
Gideon
cool.
was really fun to talk to.
That's really cool. How exciting. So if you guys want to hear those conversations, stay tuned and keep a lookout for Abaddon Eyes,
Yes.
the new podcast. But yes. We are still going through the house. We are getting introduced to kind of the manor itself, and we get to see the family portrait that also is just kind of like
Shit's great.
yeah, style. It was so funny looking. And
It looks very forced.
That's the word that I was going for. It looked very forced. Yeah. Obviously, nobody wanted to be there in that room. And they are essentially they're talking about how like he's like basically saying y'all could have stayed longer, but ha ha ha, nobody even stays more than 2 nights essentially.
Yeah.
right.
He was like, you could have stayed 20 nights,
Mhm.
but
Nobody
the
lasts more than 2
estate's
days.
really trying to make us lock this place down and not let anyone in.
Which also is like, what does that mean? The
Mhm.
estate, but then there's you. Who has more power? I feel like the estate would have more power to be like, shut it down.
Just don't let people in here.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You would think.
I don't know. It's weird.
But as we're going throughout the manor, we also get a notice of the kitchen buzzer on the wall. And I think Rebecca kind of plays with it, and she's like, "What's this?" And then they're like, "Oh, that's, whenever there was a full service, like staff in the manor, basically you could be in your room and like call down." It kind of reminds me of The Boy.
Yeah.
And
With the bells, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like that.
They were rich.
Yeah.
They had staff.
Literally.
That they didn't have to like.
They didn't have to make dinner.
Chef. They just like rung a bell.
Ding dong.
Ding dong. Yeah. Well, that was crazy
I'd
too.
like some cheese and crackers.
The amount of money and wealth to have to be able to like do that.
Yeah. Can't imagine.
Couldn't
be me.
Honestly, I would. It'd be so cool to find a house like that nowadays, though. Not for like that reason, though, for staff, but like just to like intercom systems are pretty cool. Old intercom systems, yeah.
It would be super neat. I would buy a house probably
just for that reason. If they were like, it needs a little work here, the bathroom's bad in this, but it's got an intercom system. Okay.
Or it's got this old like dumbwaiter or something.
Oh, dumbwaiters would be really cool. Yeah, that's true.
But also terrifying. It makes me think of Goosebumps and that one where the head came up on the dumbwaiter.
It makes me think of Home Alone 3 when they switch the kid and it's no longer Macaulay Culkin, but Scarlett Johansson's in it as a teenager. And anyways, at one part of it, he takes out the bottom part of the dumbwaiter. Spoiler alert. And one of the crooks goes in from the top and she like sits and backs into it thinking she's going to like beat him downstairs as he's going downstairs. And she doesn't realize that the bottom's not there. And just like from the like attic all the way down to the basement is like, yeah. So that's probably what you mean by scary. And just like falls like ass first all the way down.
Yeah.
It's like, and obviously in real life, you might die.
Yeah.
But it's like funny, haha. And she's like, Tweedleberds, whatever.
Yeah. But then we also get note here that Catherine was only 17 when all this happened, and
Poor
she
Catherine.
wanted to be a filmmaker. So she was always filming stuff around the house.
Which just gives us a good reason to have all these old film footage to have of
yes,
them.
exactly, of the Carmichaels themselves.
Because we have to have a reason why the cameras are on.
Yes.
Yes. And also, a little bit before this, the one thing that is reliable in the house is the Wi-Fi, the internet.
Yes.
This was heavily mentioned because Rebecca needs the freaking internet to work because she's got a job to do still while she's there.
Yeah. The Wi-Fi is supposed to be
Hella
super strong. Yeah.
Okay, anyways.
Never mind the power, though.
Yeah, for real. It's kind of important for the Wi-Fi.
If the power goes out, you're kind of fucked. But anyways, they also get mentioned, too, as... What's his name? Bradley?
Bradley.
Bradley.
The narrator guy?
Not Bradley. Sorry.
Douglas?
Douglas.
Yeah.
As Douglas is going to leave, he mentions like, hey, there is actually, have you ever heard of the old Abaddon Hotel? And they were like, oh, yeah, duh.
It's a town over.
It burned down a few years back. And he was like, oh, yeah, well, there's actually this antique store that recovered a lot of the goods from the hotel. And you might want to check it out. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So, yeah, go by this antique store. And
really gives...
Rebecca's like, hell yeah, antique store, which would be me in that situation. One lesbian's always got to love an antique store.
Well, I was about to say it's very Nancy
both.
Maria, like the estate sales they go to. Not me outing people on the podcast. No, I'm just kidding. They're out.
I was like... I feel like they're pretty open.
No. And so we have them, and also, and you mentioning that Douglas mentions this also gives me more pause to think like Douglas is in on this shit. Douglas is in the cult. Because why would he fucking say that?
Yeah.
He's directly like leading them to go there.
I guess he was just figured that they'd probably be interested in it.
It's not
because
of her line of job and work. But specifically the Abaddon Hotel, like, it gives that Douglas is very much in on it. Douglas is Tully's, like, a bastard son that was, like, while he was still a pastor, like, had it with, like,
I want to go back to him being Patrick's lover.
Oh, okay. Or Patrick's lover, yes. and Patrick is leading him. And why can't he be Tully's bastard son who fell in love with Patrick?
And that's why he's
literally. There's so many layers to it. Steven, are you listening?
We're giving you.
We're not telling you how to write your
backstory.
movie, but this could be a thing. We're doing fanfic and shipping Patrick and Douglas.
Yes.
And Douglas is now trying to bring Patrick back from the dead.
Just like Margaret.
Yeah.
Not Margot. That's confusing. Margaret and Margot.
The parallels, yeah. Anyways, cut back to...
Yeah. And then basically after that, we get mention of Chase and how he's invited. And Rebecca is pretty hesitant about this. She's like, he's a liability. We can't really have him. And Margot's like, no, he's going to be an extra set of hands. He's going to be super great. Like, we totally need him around. And
really trying to sell her on Chase coming.
Yeah. I would personally feel better if there was somebody else there too. Like if there's strength in numbers.
True that.
So I would be like, yay. But also, I guess if I fully knew Chase's backstory, I wouldn't be saying yay.
Strength in numbers is good, but you want to make sure that it's like a reliable number, not someone that you could, be a little flaky maybe.
Yeah, that's true.
That's all. Not to speak ill on Chase, because he was doing his best. Honestly, he was doing. Honestly, he did do his best. It's just unfortunately the power of the house won.
Yep. The clown got him.
And then even like his whole scenes with like right before the clown gets him, and then like the like cutting back and forth to like there was knocks and then there wasn't, and then like oh my gosh it's night, and then there's dark, and my bedroom door just opened. Like Chase was sticking through it. He was roughing it out. Like I would have grabbed my stuff and been out.
Yeah, or have at least gone to
woken them
Margot
up.
and Rebecca's
I'm sleeping
room.
in this room with y'all.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Like Patrick did whenever he stayed the night at my brother, when he stayed the night at our house.
Oh yeah.
And every time he was about to go to sleep on the couch, something would snap right next to his ear and wake him up.
Why is your house haunted, Caitlin?
It was haunted. That house, my old house.
Oh, different house. I'm like, the one you're at right now?
No.
Oh, okay.
The old house on 1016 was definitely haunted.
Oh, that's scary.
And so he came and woke us up, and he was like, I'm putting the couch cushions on the floor, and I'm sleeping in here. And he slept in the room with us.
Gives very Conjuring.
Yeah.
Or no, they clap. But we... I think at this point we get introduced also to the room that can't be opened, right?
Yes, we're going through past, we get to the storage room, and at this point we got mention of it earlier that he doesn't have a key to it, and it's been locked for years. But Margot somehow gets it open.
Yeah.
And so Margot opens it, and Rebecca finds her just standing in the hallway, like observing.
Yeah, almost in a trance.
Yeah. And Margot waves Rebecca over, and then they go into the room, and we see two clowns.
Yeah.
But apparently there's a third that we're not seeing that Rebecca sees, but we don't. And these clowns are terrifying too. The one with the triangles on its face. Yeah. So the one whose head was like slightly turned, who ends up being the one in Patrick's room later.
Later on. That one was terrifying.
Yes. Yeah. Because it looked like it wasn't a mask.
It looked like a real person.
Someone's face was painted. And it just looked like it was like actually staring at them. And that one creeped me out. Every time that they just like panned on its face and just left it there, I was like, fucking, I swear to God, if this motherfucker moves, I'm gonna lose it.
Yeah, no, it definitely, because I'm assuming it was a person, right? It's a total human being with face paint. That's not a dummy.
Yeah, I don't know. Well,
when they went to go touch it, they definitely like made it seem like it was masked. Or like it wasn't human-like, but I don't know if that could be done in editing or like with the prosthesis that they put on them or something. Yeah. Because in other shots, it definitely 100%, I agree with you, it just looked like a person with face paint on. It looks so lifelike and so real. Like all the like the attributes that someone's face would have, like pores and skin details and all that type of stuff. It looks
was
super
terrifying.
real. Yeah.
And then this is where I think we actually get that when Margot was 10, she was almost abducted. I think, and they say like they actually delve into the story of Margot and how she was at the fair and this man approached her and then tried to lure her off, and it took her a second to really kind of let it sink in. And then once she realized what was happening, she starts screaming, and then I think what's her name, Alicia. She says, lots of kids went missing from the fair that year. So she must have known, like,
she felt responsible
been,
almost.
Yeah. And she, because she couldn't provide any sort of like witness testimony about what the guy looked like and stuff like that too. So she was like, oh no, like it's my fault.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we get
more information of how, like, also on that, like, whenever, because of her, like, thing that she developed with the internet sleuths, and she would go deep into her projects and get lost in them. And then also that this would be their last investigation or something like that, right?
Yeah, it ends up being.
Yeah, because of their death?
Dies.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, I guess that makes sense. My bad. Okay. But yes. And then it goes to night 1, right?
Yes. So we get, the film is in little segments. We've got night 1, 2, 3, and 4 that we'll get. And this is our first kind of night 1. And this is where, Chase shows up and stuff, and he's like talking, and this is where we get the "I'm not much of a sloth" line. And that's funny.
I love how you said that, and that's funny.
And that's really funny.
It was a little funny moment.
It was funny. I laughed.
They're making fun of him a little bit. Right before this, well, because when he right before that's happening, we are down in the area of, like, I guess the 48 area, because what's her name? Margot is reenacting, like, basically what happened the night of the incidents, the murders.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, and then we get the sloth, and then that's whenever we have, I think after that, Rebecca is talking to her boss or someone named Linda, right?
Linda, and it's body cell reception, and she can't get her phone to work.
That's right. And she goes downstairs, and that's when she notices that the closet door is open, and she's like, that's weird. But nothing much happens about that right now at this moment, because that's whenever it's like the next morning, and that's whenever we get that funny thing of, like, Rebecca recording herself and making the bed. And she's kind of making a joke of, like, Margot's, like, intro, I guess, to her videos or something like that.
Yeah. And we also get, before that, we get, like, Rebecca breaking the news that this will be one of the last times she's able to join.
Oh, my bad. You're right. Yeah.
And we also get, like, Chase had an incident.
Oh, I totally skipped all that. My bad. Yeah.
Thing. Margot and Chase are talking, and he's like, well, isn't it just convenient that you called me out here? Like, did you get a phone call from mom? Kind of thing. And she was like, well, what if I did? And they are just kind of having sibling banter going back and forth and on sensitive topics. So,
yeah.
And
basically, he feels like she's, like, babying him almost in a way, and, like, trying to, like, babysit him.
Yeah, because he went missing for 2 days apparently, and then
I've done that before.
Gone missing for 2 days.
Yeah, I used to be, like, right, like, 1920. I used to, like, go to Austin or Dallas and, like, not tell my family and like not answer their phone calls or anything until, like, coming back 2 or 3 days later.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's not too. When I look back at it now, I'm like, what an asshole.
Yeah.
That was such an asshole of me to do to them. But yeah,
well,
I was just
you live and you learn.
A rebel phase.
Yeah. But then we get the girls waking up to the sound of a girl singing, basically in the middle of the night. Rebecca, we wake up with Margot first, and then she realizes Rebecca's not in the bed. And then she looks out the hallway, and Rebecca's, like, recording down the stairs. And she's like, hey, what what's going on? And Rebecca's like, I heard somebody singing.
Mm-hmm.
And
A
so,
girl, right? Like a girl singing?
Yeah, a girl singing.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was like, okay, well, did you get it on camera? And she's like, I don't think I recorded in time.
And so Margot just like, with no hesitation, just starts going downstairs.
Yeah,
Like,
which
all
I was
right.
like,
Bitch,
no.
I'm going then. Yeah.
Turn the light on at least.
Yeah, just all dark and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But.
And then I love how Rebecca's like, you see anything? And she's like, no, nothing's down here. Yes. And then it's the next day. And this is where I interjected too soon, but she starts making the bed, right?
Yeah, she makes the bed, and it's a funny little cute scene that, again, humanizes and really lets you connect to Rebecca's character.
Not funny for long, though.
Yeah, because as soon as she turns that camera around on herself, just like in the third film and stuff, when Jane turns the camera around on herself, we get a picture of Catherine's body on the bed, bloodied, and it just kind of slowly turns its head and looks at her. And I was like, ooh, that's so scary.
And Rebecca doesn't know.
Yeah, Rebecca has no clue because she can't see it. So, but I mean, I imagine if she went back and watched the footage later, it'd be very haunting.
Yeah, it'd be freaky. I'd definitely be pissing myself.
Yeah.
Especially when you don't know.
I'd burn the camera.
Well, you need the camera at that point if the only way you can see the spirits is through the camera.
Yeah.
So we have her then, so I think it's morning. She's talking to Margot, right? And they want to go to the antique store.
Yep. And so they're up and they're going to go. But before they can leave.
They talk to Chase, right?
Yeah.
And they find the trunk.
Yeah. They're up in the storage room and they're looking through the trunk with the like red balls in it and stuff. And the little weird, not weird really, but those little clown bowling pin things. I don't know what else to call them. But
they juggle with, right?
Yeah, they kind of look like bowling pins. They've got little frayed in edges and stuff. They're kind of cute. Like I would have one sit on my house, in my house.
With the dolls?
Yeah. So, Steven,
with the clowns.
If you're listening and you have extra of those,
send them our way.
Send them our way.
Alico Building, Waco, Texas, 76705. Room number 21. I don't know. Level 21. But yes. And we have them going through all of that. And they find a bunch of stuff that's related to basically just all of the Tully stuff and the clowns. And we just kind of get a little bit of like, well, what the fuck is all this doing here? And then they're talking to Chase about how they're going to go to the antique store, and they're talking and telling him about how he needs to record the whole day or like record everything while they're gone.
Yeah.
Don't turn the camera off.
And so he's like,
I'm going to record myself in the bathroom or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was like, okay, you want me to not turn this camera off? And then we get a lot of comical footage with Chase.
Of just going through the house.
Yeah. And being in the bedroom, like popping out of the closet going, boo. And then saying, Margot, I've solved your murders. They never died. Blah, blah, blah. And just, being
goofing around.
Yeah. Silly, goofy characters. And brushing his teeth. And he's like, you brought this on yourself, Margot. Like, just really laying it on thick that, like, you asked me to record everything, so you're going to get everything.
And all fun and games and silly up until he hears a thud, a thump.
Yep.
Go off in the house. And he's like, wait, what was that? I'm alone in this house. And that's when he kind of is like, I don't know if he calls out even at this point, but he's like, he goes into the hallway area, and that's when he sees like the red ball on the floor, and he's like, well, that wasn't there before.
Yeah, and he is calling out.
He's right. He's like,
Margot, Rebecca, are you guys just fucking with me?
Yeah, I didn't know if I couldn't remember if he was doing it already before he walked into the hallway, but he definitely was, wasn't it?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure. And he's finds the
ball on the floor, but then that's he starts hearing, it sounds like someone is pacing up or back and forth or pacing up the hallway but he sees the shadow. It's someone pacing back and forth in the room.
In the storage room.
The storage room.
Yeah, which was terrifying
Mhm.
because then you just know it's one of those clowns. And it's like,
Well, regardless of too, if you're supposed to be alone and then you see like a shadow going back and forth, that's just like,
yeah, I would be getting the hell out of that house.
I wouldn't even go investigate. I wouldn't go look at
No.
it.
Yeah,
I'd go
he
back or I'd go
goes-
back into my room, go through a window. I don't know.
Climb out the window. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what.
I'd jump. I would.
Yeah.
I'd risk. I feel like I could make that jump. I don't know, but I wouldn't go past that hall. I wouldn't because I feel like that was the way out. I wouldn't go that way.
Yeah.
Like I would not go that way. And
believe
so,
it was the way out.
but guess where he does go?
He goes right to the storage room.
Mm-hmm.
And he pans it in there, and the clowns seem to be in place, like nothing's the matter, at least the two that we can see. And
He walks straight in there. But if that was me, I would have like tried to like get the camera and like, you know what I mean? Like
look and
kind of like if it was a mirror or something.
Yeah.
But I digress. But yes.
And then
We cut to Margot and Robbie,
Margot and Rebecca, yeah.
Margot and Robbie. Margot Robbie. No, I just wrote a paper yesterday, actually, on the Barbie movie campaign.
Oh,
Because I
really?
had to do something for my PR class, and it
fun.
was choosing a PR campaign and like blah blah blah. So I literally just wrote 6 pages on like Barbie yesterday. So
So
that's
it's all
why
in your head.
that was in my head. Yes.
But yes, we're with Margot and Rebecca as they are looking through the antique store, and they come and find this grandfather clock.
Yes, which is
And-
very familiar.
Yes, because it's been inside the house, and we see Brock's planchette there.
Mm-hmm.
We see some masks from the Insomnia crew. We see just lots of little tidbits, like a Hell
Nods.
House T-shirt
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. So
From all the
we're
other
in
films.
that Abaddon Hotel area, and they find the grandfather clock, which Steven said that this clock was like he bought it himself and was like
Mhm.
lugging it around and stuff, which is wild to me to think that a director would be so
Yeah.
hands on, but
Oh,
it's
yeah.
really cool.
That's really cool.
But yeah, then basically Rebecca is like, hey, this clock has secret compartments. And
Mhm.
Margot's like, how the fuck do you know this? And then Rebecca's like, well, one of the listings has a clock just like this. And all the German old manufacturers used to build these little secret compartments.
Yeah,
And so she,
they would hide Nazis in there.
yeah,
I'm just kidding. I'm
that's
sorry.
where little Anne Frank hid.
Oh yeah. Oh no, that's where they
In the
found the
clock.
diary.
Oh,
I know that's not
in
where they
the
found it,
clock.
but yes, and so it actually kind of comes in clutch that Rebecca's line of work has her knowing this knowledge, because she's able to find the little like secret. It's very national treasure. The two identical what are they called? The Resolute desk. She finds the way that you can make the little door open, secret contraption open, and she pops it open, and then they're able to get in there. And there's like a necklace in there.
Yeah, a necklace that we see later in the film,
Mm-hmm.
as well as some old footage and
Mm-hmm.
different like notes and stuff that like say just like stuff about like
They're from like Tully, right? In the hotel.
yeah,
And
and
they're
the hotel staff saying something about a pregnant, like she
Mhm.
might be pregnant,
Yeah.
find her kind of thing. And so all these like kind of cryptic messages are found within it.
Mhm.
And then we flash back to Chase, don't we?
Yes,
As
and he's back at
Margot,
the house.
starts stealing all this stuff,
Yeah.
by the way.
And she's like, I'm just going to take it. And Rebecca's like, you can't just take it. And she's like, yeah, it was secret. Nobody even knew it was there. We're just going to
Which
take
is
it.
like, I can get behind her logic, but then like as like a
Oh, yeah. It's like a
person who has-
runs a small business. And
I would be like, please don't steal from me.
don't steal my shit. Yeah.
Even if I didn't know it was there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be
I
like
totally
finding a
feel you.
$20 bill inside one of the coat pockets that I have or something.
Oh, yeah. That's when also, like, I mean, ethics and morals. I was at Hollister the other day buying a pair of jeans because I needed some jeans from Hollister. And there was $1 on the floor. And it was just right there. And it wasn't my dollar, right? But I'm like, nobody else is here. And I honestly, for a moment, was like, I'm not gonna pick up this dollar. I didn't need the dollar because I mean, truthfully, like I didn't need the dollar. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, what if someone else needs the dollar? What if? And I was also thinking like, what if like
No, that's a sign from God.
right? That's
You
your
needed
dollar.
the dollar.
Well, and then I was thinking like, well, what if someone because what if it was someone who just someone's about to come back and be like, oh, I dropped my dollar or something like that, and I'm like, oh, whoa, my bad, I'm the one who picked it up, but Nah, it's so bad that in my head I had to come up with the whole like backstory of like, nah, this is my dollar and it came out of my it fell out of my wallet.
You gaslit yourself.
I gaslit myself into believing that this came out of my wallet. The way I picked it up too, like I had to pretend like, oh nope, okay.
My dollar.
My dollar.
See, and this is where we differed the other day. I was walking down the road and I found $1 and I went, ooh, $1. And then I just picked it up.
Well,
and there were two people who were right there. And I did turn around and go, is this your dollar? And the man goes, you found it. You keep it. And I was like,
finders keepers, losers reapers.
Thank you, sir.
No, you know what's real funny?
I shoved that $1 into my pocket so fast and I had no remorse.
One time I was out with two of my friends in high school time and we were taking pictures, you know, because like everybody thought they were a photographer back in the day.
Yeah.
And I was taking senior pictures for someone and we were walking and we were by the train tracks, just right over here somewhere. And there was a $50 bill and I found it. And I swear to God, we all kind of found it. But like, it was that moment where like, I was the first one to like find it. And then like, but I could tell we all kind of like eyed it almost at the same time. I was just the person to say something out loud and then go pick it up. But it was just funny because I could tell like, they were kind of like, oh, damn.
We should have shared that dollar.
No, you know what? We went to Walmart after and we all bought like ice cream or something with it. Like I shared it. I shared the wealth, but
nice.
it was funny. But I was actually really stunned. I was like, there's a whole ass $50 bill just like crumbled up almost by the train track. Like I don't know how it even would have got out there. Like
someone got murdered.
Probably. Someone was missing that $50 bill, unfortunately.
But then we get to one of the scariest parts in the movie.
Yes. Sorry.
To me, anyways. It's Chase. We're back with Chase in the house, and he is walking.
This part is so scary.
Yeah. So scary. Because he's walking down closer to the foyer, and he comes into view, and
he hears like a giggle, right?
Yeah. He hears a giggle, turns around, and then all of a sudden you just see this little arm wrapped around the pillar. And he's like, hello?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? And then she slides her arm back, which I think is terrifying to have it
go slow like that.
Remove. Like, ugh. And then all of a sudden her whole body just leans out from outside of the pillar. And it's a very well placed soundtrack too as well in that moment. It was like a nice like pluck of a string. And then he's just sitting there staring.
He
at
almost
her.
doesn't have enough of a reaction for me because he's just kind of like,
he's kind of like, who the hell are you?
Come out of there. Come over here.
Yeah.
Like, show yourself.
He's
almost.
Probably in shock.
Yeah, but like doesn't run or move really or
And then eventually
and it's also not doing anything. It's just looking.
It's just staring.
Staring at. So I kind of get it. I get it. Yeah.
I would not know
because if it's
do.
not doing anything, you're just kind of like, if anything, you're just trying to like keep it in your sight of line the whole time. Yeah.
And so then he eventually does charge it.
Yeah. And it's funny because you would imagine, I guess he takes the offense because that's that's the part of the movies where something's staring at you for a long and then out of nowhere it just starts darting at you.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, what the fuck? Which if you have you noticed that like those are becoming really popular on like Reels and TikToks now? Where it's like, it's something else and it's making you look at something and then it's like, boop. Like the spiders or something that like
I've not seen that.
I'll send you one.
Okay.
I'll show you. It's like it gives very much like, remember that thing from like 2004 when it was like the car driving through the hills and then it's like the exorcist lady's face pops up and David's face. It's very that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But and of course, while all this is happening, the power is out too.
Yeah.
So the power's out in the place, making it already creepy. Even though it's midday, it's still just when the power's out, it's, a little extra dark in the house and it's just unsettling.
And then you see this bitch. Oh, and she had a mask on as well.
Yeah.
Which gave very
this, like porcelain doll.
Yeah, that.
Esque.
And very much the houses that built us or October's
the house October built. Yeah.
There you go. The houses that built us. The houses that built us. Really, my bad. That doesn't even make logical sense.
No, it does.
Is it? The houses that built it? I guess if you mean it in like a sense of like the house is like a house of family.
Yeah.
Like the house of Laganja Estranja. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. But basically, she just slowly retreats behind the pillar, and then he charges her and is like, "What the fuck? Who are you? Where are you?"
Yeah.
And then no one's there. And so then he's like, okay, like, I'm freaking out now.
And then it just happens that the girls walk back into the house at this time.
Yes, exactly. Well timed. They come back and he's like rightly freaked out and doesn't really go into much detail. He's just like, I got to talk to y'all. And then they sit down and review the camera footage, which is smart. Like, at least he was recording.
Right to it. Yeah.
And it, so basically they review the footage and they see Rebecca's like, oh shit, someone is there.
Which I'm really glad they can see stuff, because a lot of the times in like other movies, not in Hell House, because you do see it in these, but like it's like the things don't show up on camera when you see them in real life. And so people feel like either like they're crazy or whatever. But I'm really glad that like they can be like, oh yeah, what the fuck? He did see something.
Yeah, exactly. And then at this point, I think we also flash back to Bradley saying that the footage that was inside of the clock was none other than footage of the Carmichaels instead of like footage from the Abaddon Hotel.
Yeah.
Because he says he was expecting to find, early tapes of the Abaddon Hotel. But nope, it was the Carmichaels.
Because how did that end up at the clock? That was at the Abaddon Hotel.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all kind of connecting, which is weird. And then we're reviewing that footage now. And we've got this, like, I think I don't remember if Casey mentioned it in 2. We must not have. But Patrick, said, we get Margaret popping out behind the pillar just as she just did. Yeah. And scaring Catherine, who's remember, a filmmaker. So she's recording everything. And then she's like, oh, Patrick said we needed to add more drama to your films. And she's like, he wanted me to hide in your closet. And like, that would be so much scarier. But I think Casey mentioned that in some of the interviews that have been done. Because then he was talking about how because Margaret later on is hiding in the closet. And so he was wondering if that was like a last shred of like Patrick's humanity, trying to like one last little joke kind of thing. With his sister having Margaret hide in the closet to scare her, kind of thing, which I liked. Yeah, and I agree.
Kind of imitates what they did in the past.
Yeah,
and they end up we get all this footage, right? And then it's kind of going over how essentially this is right before she dies.
Yes, this is right before the car.
This is the last footage we ever seen. They're about to go to, she has a gig or something? Or
yeah, she is going to be in Faust.
Yeah, that's right. Which is funny, oddly enough, because in
Insomnia.
the third movie. Yeah,
exactly. So she was going to do Faust for her play, and they were going to drive into the city to be, for her to do that. And unfortunately, this was the last known like footage of Margaret ever taken while she was alive, because on their way back from rehearsal that day, they would be in the car accident hit by the drunk driver, which ultimately kills Margaret. But then we flash to our night 2, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
And then
this is when they're talking about the hotel more, right?
Yeah, because they're sitting at the table and they're looking at the notes, and then
how there's like no obvious motive for like why or what could have happened here behind Patrick or their dad. Like they're like, what happened?
Yeah. And they're looking at some of the notes, and one of the notes says, something's coming, cold the nightfall, all things die and never come back, which we get later on with Catherine when she finds the sheet music.
Yeah.
And then there's also another note that says blood from the face if they return, like I don't know.
Something like that.
Margot trips over the word in the movie, so I'm not even going to try to pronounce it.
But it's basically saying when they return, they come back with blood from the eyes, like coming out of the eyes. Which is they're coming back from hell.
Looks like the clown too. He's
and like
got
and
blood
like
coming
and like
from
all
his
the other
eyes.
and like in the other movies, all the other ghost entities that come back, they always have these eyes that are like bloodied out.
Yeah, like what's her name? Diane Graves from the first one when she's in the second one playing the ditty. And her eyes are all gouged out too and stuff. But then, as they're sitting there talking, the lights conveniently go out yet again.
And right before then, I think, doesn't Margot give Chase the necklace or something as well or something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Or he keeps it or something like that?
Yeah, he's like, oh, I could use this a little good luck. And keeps the cross necklace.
Not a good thing I would not keep jewelry that came from that clock. I guess you're into antique jewelry, but what if it's like haunted? Maybe that's why you have ghosties.
Maybe. It probably is.
Maybe.
I mean, yeah.
You do have vintage clothing and like vintage dolls and stuff. Who knows?
Someone could be attached to it.
That's so wild. But yeah, sorry. The power goes out and then they have to find the breakers, right?
Yes. And as the power goes out there, we get a little giggle again. Margaret's giggle is what we can assume.
Yeah.
But they are going to go find the breaker box, and as they make their way over there, right as they get to the closet, the lights conveniently turn back on.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, guess we didn't need the breakers anyway. And then Margot starts walking back into the hallway, and then she pauses mid-sentence and is like, and then everyone else comes rushing up like, what the fuck is it that made you stop? And there's just one of those red balls from the trunk just sitting perfectly still in the middle of the hallway. And they're like, well, how the fuck did that get there?
Because they're like, that's from the chest from upstairs.
Yep, exactly. That shouldn't be out here in the middle of the room. That's spooky. And I guess Chase failed to mention that he also saw
I was like,
one of those red balls. But who knows? And then
that's whenever Chase starts to get with Rebecca, and he's like, basically, I know that my sister can like go really like deep. It's okay. Can like fall really deep into these things, and like she's really stubborn. But like if you happen to not feel comfortable, I just know that like I'm 100% down to leave.
Because, he's like, I got your back.
Yeah, and it's like in a way because he's basically not saying like I want to get out of here, but he's saying like if you want to get out of here, like let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, strength in numbers. We'll gang up against Margot and say, we're getting the fuck out of here.
Yeah. And so that's whenever we end up having some footage that was recovered from Rebecca, right?
Yeah. Footage recovered from Rebecca's computer.
To her boss.
Yes. And Rebecca is having this conference call with her boss, showing her some different listings that she found that she thinks would be good for her company to buy. And as they're going through the first listing, everything seems okay until they get to a photo of the Abaddon Hotel. And she's like, that's weird. I don't know how that got there. And then just goes back and, all the other photos are the same and or what they're supposed to be. But then she goes to click on the next listing, and all of a sudden she's in the foyer
of the house
of the Carmichael Manor. And she's like, oh, this is lovely, but this doesn't really scream fixer-upper kind of thing. And then as she clicks through the photos, we start slowly traveling up the stairs.
Creepy.
To where, this part was really unsettling. To where Rebecca is sitting in Catherine's room, and we get Rebecca's back. We can see it. And
it's almost like a live feed, essentially.
And I almost wish that one of the photos as she turned around would have been of her facing the camera kind of thing.
Yeah.
But anyways, she then proceeds, keeps clicking through the photos. It gets closer and closer until we get in the room and somebody's standing next to her.
Yeah.
And it's just, we see the silhouette of a woman standing there. And then the next photo, I believe, is her then turned to face Rebecca.
Yeah.
And then the next photo is her like
into the camera.
Essentially. Yeah, right there, right next to Rebecca's face, all terrified and stuff.
Rebecca screaming.
Yeah.
And then like the computer goes out and then as it's going out, like the conference call goes out, her desktops, we see that there's like people in robes even in her desktop.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
Oh, no.
No? Yeah. Her screen before the conference call, it was like a landscape or whatever. And there was nothing on it. But when it came back and the call was gone, there was figures in robes, like very small. There was 2 of them.
Robes.
Yeah. On the screen. And also like kind of like, how the fuck did they pull that off? But okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And then that's whenever we then cut to Rebecca and Margot fighting because Rebecca, I think at this point is like, I want to go. I do not feel comfortable being here anymore.
Yeah.
And she's like, look, like this is like, we've got enough. Like, obviously this place is legit haunted. And that's whenever Margot is like, I think at this point she's like, is this when she's like, we've actually found a haunted place and you want to leave? Like, we like basically almost gaslighting her, being like, no, like we got to stay one more night.
My notes just say, damn, Margot, because she was like, well, I'm sorry I made you come here. Yeah. Kind of thing. And
she's really gaslighting her, being an asshole.
Yeah. I was like, oh, Margot, not chill.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she says the line, like, we finally found a haunted place and now you're trying to leave it kind of thing. And Rebecca's like, yeah, I am. I'm fucking.
Look, yeah, that's kind of the point.
That's kind of, yeah.
I've been letting you do this little fun shits and giggle things because it's like your hobby, but like, this is getting serious. So I want to go. I want to leave. And obviously.
And then she's like, Chase, back me up.
And she's honestly rightfully upset too because it interfered with her work.
Yeah, like, she's like, I probably lost my job. The only thing that's supporting us afloat.
Yeah,
because NetSleuth isn't bringing in any money.
And then you're right. She then tries to be like, Chase, back me up.
Yeah, and then Chase is like, yeah, like maybe I don't think we should stay here any longer than we have to.
Yeah,
kind of thing. So, but they end up deciding to stay one more night. And Chase comes downstairs, finds Rebecca sitting out on the back porch with like her little cup of coffee, looking real cozy in a blankie. And
talking about how the internet has been down since the presentation.
Yeah. And which it was supposed to be reliable. So that's a red flag. And then basically that's it. And we flash to night 3.
It's
and
the final countdown.
The final countdown.
It's such a good song.
It is.
Okay.
We're heading to...
It also gives me very maybe they got their inspiration. Remember the SpongeBob God, the band episode. Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember the words, but yeah. But they're going over the photo they found in the Clock of the Clowns and connecting the dots, essentially.
Yes.
Of what
pictures
of
the down a clown.
You down a clown, you win one round.
Yes.
Go to the next one, you win a big clown. I don't know.
You win this whole clown.
You win a cult.
You win a cult.
You win death. Come here, children. I'm going to eat your soul. I love eating children's souls.
Yeah.
They taste like cotton candy. Ooh.
Oh.
You eat the
I don't even eat
the
chicken.
savory ones. I know. God. But yes, they're trying to piece together kind of like why things are connected and why we have Abaddon Hotel stuff and like who are these clowns?
And on the back of the pictures of the clown, it says Clarksburg Fair, West Virginia, 1975, which is when not the same.
That's not Margot's incident, but
it was wasn't it at the Clarksburg Fair? Or
was
no?
it? No. I thought it was a traveling. Like it moved. Like they were moving from city to city, essentially, basically. Okay. And this was where they were beforehand, before they ended up at the one where
she almost got abducted.
Exactly. Yeah. Kind
And
of like
then,
basically like I feel like it was insinuating that like the cult itself, how we feel like it was established beforehand, was moving from place to place through the carnival. And then I feel like a certain point they were like, we got to change our game, we got to do something, and then somehow came into the hotel, and then that's
yeah,
when things transitioned to the
they were
hotel.
nearby the Abaddon, and they
Yeah,
were like, "This place is a
that's
good.
the spot.
It's
That's
got
the
a
one.
portal to hell."
Yeah.
And then this is
prime
where
real
we
estate.
get mentioned the first time that we get mention of 3 mannequins from Rebecca.
Yes.
Whenever she says the 2 mannequins up there are the same 2 mannequins in this photo, and Rebecca goes 3 mannequins, and she's like, "What?" And then, but basically we brush over that for now,
We do.
and Margot, I keep wanting to call her Margaret. Margot is like, we have finally got a direct connection between the manor and the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And then as they're sitting there, they're
The buttons, right?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
bing,
Little call buttons go off.
the little button goes
And
off.
they're like, "What the fuck is that?" And that's when Rebecca is like, "It's the bell service."
the call button.
Yeah. Because obviously, because like they're like, "Who the fuck is doing that?" And then that's whenever they're going to investigate, and they end up in the clown room, right?
Yeah, well,
Or no. They go to one of the bedrooms, and that's when the clown is in the bedroom, and they're like, "How the fuck did he get there?"
Yeah, because they see that, because they can see which room it was calling from.
That's right,
And they
yeah.
saw that it was coming from Patrick's room.
Mhm.
So they go upstairs to investigate in Patrick's room, and they get up there, and the creepy triangle face clown is standing there just in the middle of the room.
The one that looks like a real person.
Yeah, the one that looks like a real person is just standing there, and fucking creepy as shit.
Mhm.
And that part scared me.
Very creepy. And then I think at that point, Rebecca like goes downstairs or hears something, or hears a door downstairs. And so she ends up walking down there. And that's whenever she sees that the closet door is open again. But then a ball comes and rolls out towards her from it.
And she continues to go towards it by herself.
Because, yeah,
which
you're
I
gonna do
just
that.
don't understand. I was like, Rebecca, get away from that. You're smarter than this.
I would have just thrown the ball back and then ran away.
I would have not touched that ball. And I would have just ran away. And I would have been like, Margo, you get down here with me.
Yeah.
I would not have investigated.
And because she goes further, and what does she ends up going into the closet, because you can't see anything on this side of the closet at first, and so that means I'm gonna walk in, and then she turns around, and then like on the edge of the other side of it is the fucking one of the other fucking clowns.
And the clown's just right there, like, wah.
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, she screams, and then they go into the closet. The clown's head is moved, by the way.
Yeah.
And then basically we just kind of flash to Margot and Chase talking.
Yeah.
Right? The camera's shut off. They turn them off after freaking out. And we get with Margot and Chase talking about basically what happened to Chase. And Chase is explaining how over the course of these days, he was seeing this little girl who kept saying she can't find her mom and was asking for help to, find her mom. And every time he would try to help her, like, she would disappear kind of thing. And she kept just reappearing throughout the day wherever he was. And eventually he realized she's not real.
Yeah.
And then
but before she faded, I think from the last time, she said, and she told him to go with Margot.
Yeah, she said go with Margot.
And then I think it was that day or the next day, she ended up calling him and asking him to go out.
The next day.
Yeah, to go with him to the Carmichael Manor. So it's like the timing of things is very weird, and that's kind of where we were saying, like, well, what if she is somehow was sent through like the evilness of the Abaddon Hotel or the Carmichael Manor, and essentially was coaxing him to come because of his association with Miss Margot. So I don't know. There's a lot of strings there that can be connected, maybe, if they wanted to dive into more information or more in that background. But yeah, and I think even at this point, they're both kind of like this is just, there's a lot of weird shit going on, man. It's pretty haunted out here. And that's whenever we end up, Margot ends up hearing something or something like that.
Yeah, they wake up to another sound outside their room. She said it sounded like a yell and then a thud, which I'm assuming was Chase's Margot, like as he started to yell Margot and then got cut off.
That's true.
That's what I'm assuming she woke up to.
Yeah.
But didn't open her door.
Yeah.
And so, and then she heard nothing else.
Because she wakes Rebecca up and then they're like, but we're okay. We're all right. We're going to go back to bed. And that's whenever they wake up the next day and they find Chase's bag is like right in front of their door in the hallway. And then they're looking for him around the house kind of frantically and they can't find him. And then Margot is like, Rebecca, call his phone. And that's when it ends up somehow being under their bed, which I'm like, how the fuck did it end up there?
It was under Chase's bed.
Oh, it was under his bed?
Yeah, she
I
was
guess I
in
didn't see
his
her
room.
Oh, my bad. Okay, I thought they were still in her room for some reason. But it was under his bed. And then that's whenever she's bringing up how he did text her the night before, like, hey, was that you? But she never responded, thinking that he must have been thinking about the same sound that she heard.
Yeah.
But in reality, you're right. It was probably the noise of what he made whenever he went away. So he had texted her before that. And then that's whenever I think Rebecca is like, kind of like, she walks off, I think, because she's like kind of almost done with the situation. And then we have Chase's last recording before he, I guess, went missing. And it's basically showing what happened the night before, how he was in the bedroom. And then there was like knocks on the door and he thinks it's Margot and he goes out to check, but nobody's there.
Yeah. And he's like, it starts with him just like sitting there pouring one out because he had said that he was going to drink to get through the night.
Yeah.
Because even I think Margot had asked him, hey, do you want to bunk with Rebecca and I?
Yeah.
Which I would have been like, yes.
Yeah.
But that, and he says this line, he says, let's just hope that we all live to tell the tale, which is like famous last words. Because then, someone starts knocking on his door, but no one's there. And then he's like, okay, I'm just going to go to bed. So he turns off the camera and then we wake up to it again with someone knocking on his door. And they knock like 3 or 4 times before he gets up, opens the door, and no one's there.
Yeah.
And then he locks the door. It makes a very clear point to show him locking the door. And then the next, this scene creeped me out too, because the next shot that we get is of his room pitch black, but you can see the door open.
And he's like, someone open my door.
Yeah. He's like, I just woke to the sound of somebody opening my door. And then he turns the light on and I put, there he is. There's my favorite boy.
Yeah.
Because Hell House Clown
returns.
The OG one is in his room.
Yeah.
And it's
just
like
staring at him.
Staring out the window.
And he's
then
very
he
like,
turns
what the
his
fuck?
head. Yeah. And Chase is just saying he's gonna leave. He's like, I'm on my way out. Like, I'm gonna go. And I was like, run, bitch.
Yeah.
Fucking get out of there. But he is, and this is the first and only time thus far that we've seen the clown actually move
on. Yeah. And it's following him, but basically like Super Mario style. So like it's like it only moves when he's like going forward. So when he turns back, it's like it's closer and closer.
Yeah. But we do see him actually walking at some points.
Yeah.
And then he's just about to make it to the stairs whenever it's too late, and he goes to yell Margot and he gets cut off mid-sentence or mid-word and is attacked, and his footage goes glitches out, yeah. And then we're with September 4th, 1989, Catherine checking on Patrick.
Yeah. And he's in the bed, right? Or no. Yeah. And in his
he's
bedroom,
sitting on the edge of his bed
because the clowns are in his room now.
Yeah, he has all the clowns in his room.
And she's like, what the fuck are these clowns, Patrick? And he doesn't seem okay. And that's whenever he starts bringing up like, we can bring her back. We can bring
he says, what if somebody told you they could bring her back?
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't know about all that. She's like, she's dead. And then she gives him the cross necklace that was from the clock and is basically like, I think you need this more than me. Because then all of a sudden she sees Margaret's bloody dress on his dresser.
That's right. And she's like, what the hell are you doing with that?
Yeah, she was like, Jesus Christ, Patrick, like, come on. And then
the clowns are there clowning. And then that's whenever she like goes through the trunk or something and she ends up finding the sheet music.
Yeah, he tells her not to go through the trunk.
Yeah.
So then she comes back later and she finds the sheet music. And basically we get the same little
tune.
Yeah, our same tune from all the other.
It's the Hell House jingle.
Yeah, the
Jingle
Hell
Bell
House
Rock.
jingle. Something's coming, cold the nightfall, all things die and never come back. And then throw the ashes, grasp your crosses, pray to him, you'll never come back. Life's a circle full of darkness, stay with him and never come back. And then she's like, Jesus, Patrick, where did you work? Because, yeah, it's all creepy. Now
But
we've got words to the song.
cryptic and dark.
Do.
And even the key and the tone in which she sings it on too, it's very like minor, so it's just like very eerie sounding. And so it's the next day, and then Rebecca wants to leave, but so her and Margot end up getting into a fight because Margot wants to wait for Chase, but Rebecca's like, I mean, we could just go, and then Margot's like, but what if he comes back? And so at this point, they're just like, okay, we'll wait a little bit more time. And then that's when I think we start to get more information from Alicia about Tully's earlier days.
Yes.
About how he was religious up until his daughter died.
Because he had a family, and Abigail Tully was his daughter, and she died.
And things kind of turned from there. We don't know a lot of information, but we do know that like he fled from an arrest warrant. And ended up meeting Thomas Rollins and Freddie Perkins, the Down a Clown guys. And somehow in the mix with them ended up maybe starting a cult in the carnival that ended up moving and then ended up settling next to Abaddon. And then that's whenever they ended up setting up like home base essentially in the hotel after that.
Yep.
And that's whenever Patrick started working at the hotel. Not long after, I guess, it opened up in the 80s, right? Or 90s, I guess it had to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, 90s.
It was
or 89, I
80s.
guess, that same time period. Yeah, that time frame. Because obviously he died in 89. But yeah, or did he? And so at this point, I think a few hours have passed and it's like 4 p.m. and Rebecca's like, okay, it's time to really go now. And Margot, I guess, kind of goes begrudgingly with her. And they're like, okay, but the car won't start and they can't get it going.
Car is dead. Yeah. So then Margot's like, okay, well, if we start now, we can make it before sundown, which I was like, it's 4 p.m., bitch. The sun goes down in 2 hours.
Yeah, literally.
But I was like, I guess it must be summer, even though they're wearing coats.
And 13, like a mile is at least 15 minutes a mile. So you're talking about 13 of them, 15 times 13. Like you're going to be out there for at least
math
4
wasn't
or
math
5.
him.
Yeah. That's a 4 or 5 hour trek.
But if
you're going the whole time consistently.
Yeah. And so they were going to try to walk on foot. And that's what they do. They are walking along the way, and all the while they're coming across like weird things, like this weird little abandoned shack kind of thing. It looks like they're almost off the main road now too. And then they find those crosses with the scarecrows on them.
Kind of like almost Blair Witch style in a way. Yeah.
And then as they're walking through, they hear shrieking.
Yeah.
Happening, and
it's almost like a bird because it's so shrill, but then it's like, no, that's a human being like screaming.
Yeah. And then they get a little bit further. They're kind of like, okay, well, we'll just keep walking, and then they run into a hearse and
I love how even they're even like, what the fuck is a hearse doing out here?
Yeah. And then they look down to like this little covered bridge looking area thing, and there's a hooded figure standing there. And then all of a sudden it multiplies and there's like 2 of them.
Yeah.
Or at least 2 of them.
Yeah.
And they hear the shrieking again and they just start running. Bolt back the way that they came.
Back to the Carmichael Manor.
They make it back to the house and they're in the house, and then they get a text from Chase that says, "Hi, which is just like, bitch, that's all you have to say?
Yeah.
Hi. And then she's like, hey, where have you been? And he says, met some new friends.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, what do you mean? And he says, they want to meet you.
Yeah.
And then
We get like a knock at the door after that.
yeah.
Right.
And she says, okay, come to our room. And he says, they won't like that. And then he says, okay, I'll come. And then knocking on the door happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're kind of standing there like not opening the door, not sure. And then the door just opens on its own.
Yeah.
And then there's one of the fucking red balls is there. And
the scary ass red balls.
I know.
Yeah.
They are scary.
And then Rebecca just runs out, right?
Uh-huh.
Because she's like, nah, fuck this.
And because they get a text that says they're in your room now.
Oh, yeah.
Once the door opens. And so she's like, nope. And then Margot chases her downstairs. They're hiding in the car. And then we're back with October 10th, 1989, I believe. And it says they didn't die. Like, we're with Patrick.
Yeah.
And she was like,
we thought you were dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Catherine.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine was like, we thought you were dead. Where have you been? And he's like, I was in jail. And then he's like, I won't be needing this anymore.
Yeah.
And throws off his arm sling. And his arm's perfectly fine, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she was like, what the hell? Like, they're talking about a mass suicide at that hotel that you work at. What is going on?
Mm-hmm.
She was like, everyone's dead. And he's like, they didn't die. They just crossed over. And he says, I was supposed to be there, but I was in jail, basically.
Yeah.
And then shit starts hitting the fan, basically, at this point, right?
Because we're back with the girls now. And I think at this point, they get split up somehow because Margot's inside, but Rebecca's still in the car.
Well, and
right?
then first, Catherine sees Margaret.
Yeah.
Hitting, like, shit hits the fan on the Carmichael tapes.
Oh, yeah.
Because Catherine sees Margaret down at the end of the hallway.
Yeah.
Just underneath that light bulb with her head kind of cocked. And then it just, like, it goes. And then we flash to Catherine in the house. And she's saying they're in the house. And you then see this hooded figure rush past. And then we get Margaret hiding in Catherine's closet. That scene.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
And so Catherine goes to hide in her closet once she sees that hooded figure rush past and is in there. And then all of a sudden hears her name being called and then opens the door and shines some light in there. And we see Catherine just sitting there, or Margaret just sitting there. And then her mask falls off and her face is all dead looking demon-like. And then we flash to night 4.
Night 4.
And we're back in the house from the car.
And that's whenever, is that when Chase contacts Margaret?
Yeah, he starts calling
Margot? Not Margaret. Margot, my bad. Yeah.
Yeah, Chase starts calling Margot's name. And this is when the 911 tape is starting to line up with what's actually happening in the film. And then Chase, like, Margot goes out and Rebecca calls after her, like, saying, that's not him, that's not him.
Yeah.
And then Catherine's body in the bed, like, kind of lunges and goes towards Rebecca and then comes towards her again, kind of thing. That I remember Rebecca gets, like, attacked by Catherine's body, like, twice.
Yeah. Because a lot of this point, too, I feel like this is the most, like, this movie, in terms of the camera, it's very shaky at this point a lot. There's so much going on at this point.
Yeah.
I have to be honest, at some of these moments, I had to kind of be, like, watching from, like, my peripheral because they were making me a little nauseous. Like, that's just me because I have really bad motion sickness, though.
Yeah.
But, but yes, all of that's happening. But then I know that at a certain point, Margot then ends up running to a different room or it's the same room, but she ends up seeing Chase, right? Because he's facing away from her, sitting down in a chair.
She makes it into
Is it Patrick's room or?
I think it's the room that Chase was staying in, so the master bedroom.
And she's, like, calling out to him, and then, like, that's whenever we get to him, and his eyes are bludgeoned out red.
Yeah,
just
all
like all the
gouged
other
out.
People who come back, I guess.
And then they are locked out of their room, right?
Something like that.
And then
Because that's whenever we end up coming to Margot. She just ends up being the last one there, right? Like the last one that the camera's on, or focused on, and then it cuts away to them talking about how the clown was there when she was a kid at that carnival.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the clown, she's at the end of the hallway. She like basically traps herself into a corner.
Mhm.
And then the clown is coming down the hallway and we see it just grab her head.
Mhm.
And then her footage goes blank.
That's
Yep.
it. Mhm.
And then we get a voiceover of Bradley saying, "Evil never dies. No fire will ever destroy it. You can never claim victory over it. That evil will always exist and will always be there."
Mhm.
And then the clown was in the background of the picture of young Margot, which was like, what?
Bum bum bum.
Yeah, when it zoomed out, I was like, it's been there the whole time.
Mhm.
But then we're with Patrick now,
Mhm.
and he is saying, if you're watching this, just know that I had to do it, basically. And then he puts the clown mask on, and you hear him shushing someone who you can assume is Arthur.
Probably, maybe. Yeah.
That's what I would assume is there in the room with him. And he's like, it'll all be over soon. And then he puts the clown mask on and looks out looks at the camera and then walks past the door, and then it's like roll credits.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the credits,
Post-credit scene.
we get word from Alicia that the Rockland County is starting up the fair again, which leads us
Since
into
the
a
hotel
perfect
has been taken down, yeah.
Yeah. It leads us into a perfect
Segue.
fifth one.
Mhm.
Yeah. For either
The story to
backstory
continue.
of the fair or a little bit of both, and with
Mhm.
the new fair starting up and the continuation of this cult.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is pretty cool.
And that is the end of Hell House LLC Origins, the Carmichael Manor. Pretty
Yes.
much. Yes. Yeah.
2023, written and directed by Stephen Cognetti.
Bow, 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 bow.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the fourth film in our series of Hell House movies. And are you ready to get into the ratings?
Booze.
The booze?
Tell me your booze.
Well, I feel like there's like these movies for us, at least in the past few episodes, have had a really high standard of rating because we've kind of really liked them. We have had a bit of a bias since we've gotten to know a little bit more of the creation and the creator. And we've kind of watched them each like 2 or 3 times at this point. For me, this one surpasses definitely, I feel like, number 3 for sure. Is up there in terms of story with number 1. It definitely has a lot of depth to it in terms of connecting dots on what happened in some of the earlier entries. But also does a really good job of being its own story. Like almost if you didn't watch the other movies, you could watch this and still follow along. And if anything, this is kind of like a good way that Steven is reaching out to new audiences and new people to watch, because if they watch this, then they're going to be like, oh, well, I need to know the rest of the story. So I'm going to go back and watch all the other films now to catch up.
Yeah.
But I think that this one really did, what's the word? A lot of the other films, all 3 of the other films had like a big cast, like had like all these supporting cast members that kind of made up the whole.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this one had really, for most of it, just really Margot, Rebecca, and Chase.
Yeah.
We also, of course, had Patrick and his sisters, Douglas, Bradley, and Alicia, but they were more or less the focus of the story. And I think that the movie benefited from having just them 3 as opposed to 5 people and then the 2 from the other groups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool, and it was able for us to focus on more intimate long scares in the terms of like whenever Chase was in the house and we had what I'm assuming was Margaret, right? In the looking out,
Yeah.
scaring him like she did to Catherine. And then just that was a really long, drawn-out scene, even when the clown was pacing back and forth. Unfortunately, Chase kind of got the worst end of it, right? Even at the end when he was getting chased by the clown, like it was just all pretty terrifying for him. And
It's maybe because he had that necklace.
Maybe
Patrick was like, bitch, that's my necklace.
Yeah, probably.
Give me back that necklace.
And then we had a lot of good I guess it's almost like fan service, but not fan service in the way that things were connected. And we finally got to be let in on a little bit more on how things came to be. I don't know. Overall, I thought it was well paced. It wasn't like too long.
Yeah, an hour and 38 minutes.
Yeah, other than like a few points where I just personally couldn't watch because of my motion sickness, because this movie did have a bit more of shake to it, I feel like, than the other ones, which is kind of funny because also in the beginning, and especially in a lot of the moments that it had with like Bradley and Alicia, it had more of a what's the word, like AHS Roanoke, I don't know, it's the true crime documentary, like docu style. Yeah, where it's like interviewing one-on-one with people and then showing us like what happened, very like snapped almost, which is like the other films. But I feel like this one did it definitely, I feel like in a different way, maybe because they have more of a budget, or maybe because it wasn't necessarily like a news outlet or like the morning, what were they called again? Morning mysteries and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm going to give it 4.5, a 4.5 out of 5. 4.5 out of 5. Out of 5 boosts, yeah.
That's good. Mm-hmm. I think I have no fun facts. I think this film was too new. Mm-hmm. So there's no really fun facts that I can find on the internet right now. But other than what fun facts we
are learning
mm-hmm. through the interviews and stuff, which y'all will learn with us.
Yeah, we don't want to spoil that.
Yeah. So I think I'd have to give this one. I did like this one, I think, more than 2 and 3. Mm-hmm. I don't remember when I gave 2 and 3 already.
I think they were, because I think they were like 3 was definitely a 4, I believe, for you.
Yeah.
I feel like, because 1 was a 4.8, I think.
And 2 I gave, 1 I bumped it up to a 5.
Mm-hmm. That's probably the first one.
And then, and then 2 I think I did a 4.5. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think I'll go with a 4.5 as well. Overall, like you said, we had longer scares. I thought the scares in this film were probably some of the best mm-hmm. out of the whole series, other than the first film. Mm-hmm. The first film, I guess because that was the first time I had ever seen that clown, it scared the shit out of me. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember being nervous to be around my clowns and stuff that night and stuff at my house. And so I think the clown was still equally as scary. And then that new clown, he scared me almost even more mm-hmm. because he looked so realistic. And then just overall, I think the scares itself were better. I think Margaret peeking around the corner was absolutely horrifying. And I loved it. I thought it was a great scene. And I think the acting in this film was all super believable. I really enjoyed Margot's character, and I liked the, representation too that we had with Margot and Rebecca. Mm-hmm. That was really cool. And overall, I think this was a really solid sequel. Well, if we call it a sequel. Yeah. Sequel to our original trilogy.
The start of a new trilogy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think Steven did a stand-up job with it. And if you haven't watched these films, you're doing a great disservice to yourself.
Mhm.
They're really, really good, easy watches. All of them are, about an hour and a half long.
Mhm.
They're all super easy to get through. And as long as you don't get motion sick. This one did have a little bit more of the, like, just putting the camera down and walking kind of thing, which made the camera really shaky a whole lot.
It was actually really weird because, like, this one, out of all of them, made me the most sick. The other ones didn't even make me that. Like, I could kind of watch throughout the whole thing. This one, I had to kind of, like, go like this and just listen and do my best to look every 2 seconds and be like, oh, okay, what's happening now?
Yeah. And then this one is the first time I really noticed the soundtrack too. And I liked it. I thought it was well placed whenever it was there. And so, yeah, I liked the backstory of the Carmichaels, and I enjoyed how, again, those little threads were put into the storyline and connecting the Carmichael Manor to the Abaddon Hotel. So, yeah, overall a 4.5 from me and Josh.
Mm-hmm.
So
4.5 overall.
4.5 overall for Hell House LLC Origins, the Carmichael Manor, 2023, written and directed by Stephen Cognetti.
Say that 3 times.
Yes. Blah, 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 blah. Mouthful, but it's worth it.
It is. And it's kind of until the next time we get an entry into the Hell House universe. And for now, at least on our part of covering the series, we'll be waiting until the next one. But make sure to stay tuned and look out for the new podcast called Abaddon Eyes, because there will be more to delve into with the Hell House LLC universe, different interviews with different cast members, crew members, the director himself. And yeah, it's going to be hopefully a chilling and thrilling new adventure.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, lots of fun interviews.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we'll be on some of them, and we'll release some on our feed as well as them being released on their own feed. So be on the lookout for that. We'll be diving into another film series.
Part of the Conjuring
universe
right?
next. And then we'll also be doing some Christmas films.
Yes.
To stay in the holiday spirit.
Because it's Christmas time coming up real fast, you guys.
Yep. It's already December. But yeah, so as always, we're in the lovely Rogue Media Network studios. They take great care of us, and you can listen to us and all the other amazing podcasts that they have all in one central place, and that is
at roguemedianetwork.com.
And then you can also listen to us on a slew of podcasting platforms, the biggest two being
Apple
and also Spotify, which thanks to all of our Spotify listeners who had us in their top podcasters.
And their Spotify Wrapped.
Yeah, that was really fun to see that.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out to y'all. And it was my own was like, your most listened to podcast was Boobies. And I was like, well, that's because I have to listen to it. But I also do. I like listening to our episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't share it because I thought that would be weird.
Well, did you see even Ice Spice shared her Spotify Wrapped, and it was literally she streamed her own, like her top 3 songs were like Deli and Boy's a Liar and like something else. Because I mean, so honestly, work, that's business. Like you stream your own shit. Like if anybody's gonna put numbers on it, you know you're gonna do it yourself. You know what I mean? Like you got to help yourself out. So yes, we listen to and play our own podcast to get the numbers up, but we actually enjoy listening to it as well.
Yeah, we're fans.
Yeah, we're fans of ourselves, obviously, because we're narcissists.
Yes.
Who else has podcasts? I feel like anybody who has a podcast, you have at least a little bit of narcissism in you because you like to hear yourself talk.
But so wherever you do listen, though, don't forget to
rate, review, like, and subscribe, and murder. I'm just kidding, don't murder.
Because that is the only way we can get ahead in this world. Kesley finally reviewed us.
Yay.
And she put the only podcast I actually listened to.
Cute.
And she put that she was #1 fan, Kes, which she is our #1 fan.
0.00001%.
Yeah, she was.
Mm-hmm.
And so shout out to you, Kesley. But Yeah, and then you can reach out to us if you want to let us know your thoughts on Hell House and the world that they're building, or if you want to reach out to us and let us know your thoughts on the Annabelle series.
We'll be covering Annabelle Creation, and Annabelle Comes Home.
Yep. And so you can reach out to us and let us know your thoughts on that on our one social media platform. And that is Instagram, and that is at
Boobays Podcast, and that's at BOOBAES, because we're your boobays, not your boobabes.
That's right. And if you have questions for Abaddon Eyes as well, you can reach out to us on there as well, because they don't have social media yet. So if you want to listen to them and figure stuff out about them, you can do that by reaching out to us. But until next time, you guys.
Bye, bays.
Bye, bays.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.